29th on Sauga 960 AM and as well on YouTube. It is Monday, September the 30th. You know what that means. It is time for Ringside Heat. Ringside Heat is on the air on Newstalk Sauga 960, your favorite podcatcher, as well as on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan, host and producer of the show, and we thank you again for tuning in, downloading the podcast, and watching us on YouTube, especially our subscribers on Patreon who are graciously giving us their minds and their hearts to keep the lights on over here as we go through and talk about the wrestling industry, the genre of entertainment that has captured, encapsulated, and trapped maybe our minds in certain ways. And I don't, yeah. I was trying to find some end something that was like, wow, did I just
incarcerated? No, that's an I.
No. And and trapped, incarcerated. I don't know what I don't know what words we're coming up with, but that might actually be kind of apt for the topic of discussion for today's show.
We'll see. There could be a part 7. We don't know.
Who knows? And the
follow-up episode.
right beside me over here is the responsible man of the ring crew, the AEW expert. He is a charity Twitch streamer for Extra Life and Sick Kids. Great charities to donate to, and hey, you know what? Because of them, we've got him here today, and for the long foreseeable future as well. At Risen72, Colin Dodge. Colin, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back among friends. Nobody else showed up, but that's fine. We're here. Bit of a week for me, bit of a year for me, but that's okay. We'll get through it. And I still have things to fall back on, like wrestling and my friends. I just have to remember to start watching again. I am far behind in AEW, but we're going to worry about that next time. We'll get into proper Wrestle Dream talk. But yeah, we're here. We're going to talk some wrestling, and the topic of the century, at least what Netflix wants us to believe, so we go get Netflix subscriptions. And also, hey, you could see how this person's not here anymore because now WWE's on Netflix. New regime.
Yep, exactly. The topic of discussion today will be the Mr. McMahon miniseries documentary that was released on Netflix earlier this week on September the 24th, and our thoughts about it, our preliminary thoughts about it, because I know that I know that I would love to hear from Jose, who's out with a bit of a sore throat. Just he wanted to rest up, so that's cool. Chico's got a wedding gig downtown, and at the time of this recording, I've got a wedding gig to set up for in about an hour's time. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and John and Steve, they have family stuff to do, so hey, all good with them. And
who knows what they're up to? Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah.
Well, we knew what Netflix was up to. We knew what several of the WWE faithful and ex-WWE faithful have been up to over the past few years. Apparently, the Mr. McMahon miniseries documentary on Netflix released last Monday. Is it September the 24th or?
I think so. I think it was. Yeah, it was a Monday drop.
Yeah, and it was all 6 episodes of that documentary, and it chronicles the life of Vince McMahon from basically through hearing it from not just Vince McMahon's eyes and ears, voice rather, from not just from his eyes, ears, and his voice, but also from the eyes and the ears and the voices of the people who have closely worked around him, including people like Stone Cold Steve Austin, people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I was actually surprised to see Trish Stratus as a part of it as well.
Yeah, the big storyline often a form of contention about how women's wrestling was not great until far after that, despite the great actual work that like Trish and Lita did, Ivory, Jackie, and all of Victoria and all those as well. It was just Trish and Lita that got some main events, but kind of, I guess, the darkest days for women in wrestling, at least for the 90s and the Attitude Era, and even as a teenager for myself. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a scantily clad woman, if that's your thing? But it's even then, I'm like, this is uncomfortable. There's only one TV in my house. I can't, my mom's in the other room, but if she walks through and that's happening, how do I explain that? So, and that's just from my little point of view. That's not even speaking about actually having to be in that spot, right? So, yeah.
And it's interesting how they framed that, how that was framed. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, like, of course, Vince McMahon being the head honcho of everything WWF/WWE at the time, he was the one who had the final say. We know that from history. We know that from dirt sheets. We know, and dirt sheets that are confirmed to be true, that that he was the guy that had the final say on every single thing that went on TV. But it was interesting to hear that from people like Bruce Pritchard. He was Brother Love, right?
He was.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure. And I know it probably sounds stupid saying like asking that question.
It's hard. It was a Bruce or was it Dr. Tom? But no, it was Bruce. Yeah. Because Dr. Tom was in there too, training everybody else in the back while Bruce was going on and on and on about the Undertaker.
Oh, red faced and everything. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
But it's
like me right now, but it's not makeup.
Well.
I just figured out my cosplay costume if I ever go to a wrestling event again. Yes.
There you go. Now the thing is, I think the listeners want to hear is your "I love you" impression.
Well, let's see. I've never done it before, but I love you.
There you go. Look at that right there. You even got the placement of the voice in the right place. Very nice.
Oh, good. That's on the internet.
But yeah, anyway, that long story, long way around it. But it was interesting to see that it was that in that moment with Trish Stratus talking about the women's wrestling era of the time, the Divas era, I would say would be a better term for it. That it wasn't that Bruce Pritchard and other people who worked for WWE didn't necessarily consider it not necessarily their call per se, but it was actually more of the it was actually more, it was like this is what was bringing in the ratings. You had apparently sometimes some of the biggest ratings were those very questionable segments, especially with stuff like Sable with Sable
bikini
with
contest, we'll just say.
Yeah.
Bras and panties matches every other segment.
Yep. What's the what did Stacy Keibler in an eggnog match or something like that? But
geez, I even forgot about that.
Yeah.
Man.
It's good you did, but it's good you did.
No.
But hey, I mean, it's something that they did. It's something that people watched and people apparently brought in the ratings at the time. So so what could the WWF do at the time? But put stuff on that would bring in the eyes and the ears of the wrestling audience at the time, questionable as it may be. But moreover, I mean, like there are little things like that the history of the McMahon family in wrestling, and the history of throughout the whole, I guess the last two episodes as well, of the recent history about which we can get into a little bit later, and the way that Vince McMahon and the rest of the family sort of faded themselves away from the WWE, except for Triple H. And yes, he is family. But as far as I understood it, the overarching discussion, and I think this is something that may be discussed many times over like probably ad nauseum for the end of time, I guess, how much of Vince McMahon, the man, the person, and the character of Mr. McMahon, how much of that is bled into one another, and how much of that is, just all is fiction. Now, Vince himself has said that the McMahon character is totally 100% separate from Vince. And that's actually one of his contentions. Apparently, one of his contentions upon viewing advanced screening of the series. Dave Meltzer, who was a big part of this documentary, actually, of Wrestling Observer newsletter, has suggested that this was a major source of frustration for Vince McMahon upon his viewing of an advanced screening of the series, and is what led McMahon to denounce the series one day before its release, which was he announced it on September the 23rd. But the thing is, from everybody else's point of view, Vince the Man and Mr. McMahon are very, very close, one and the same almost. And I want to get your thoughts on that first, and I'll go into my thoughts as well.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this at the top, and so I apologize. But just to make it clear, I didn't watch the documentary. I don't actually have Netflix. But what I did watch was free plug Cultaholic's review of the documentary. So at best, anything I'm talking about is third hand. So, but just to make that clear, I don't want to pretend like I saw it when I didn't. So, now, yeah, in terms of that, I mean the allegations looming and all that kind of stuff. Like, and I watch way too many cop procedural TV shows. I see that kind of talk. The first thing I thought of, however silly, was that, oh, he's setting up an insanity defense or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not me. It's the Mr. McMahon voice in my head, Thing is that though, then I think about, the best quote out of a Batman movie is, you die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself as the villain. And so did he just eventually, no, it's a separate person. And then you believe your own hype. Then you play that character so often, you just kind of become that character. And I believe, if I remember correct, I just watched the Cultaholics thing yesterday. They had mentioned, like, kind of towards the 5th and 6th episode, he kind of admits or says that, yeah, they're mixed or they started to blur, like the real Vincent Kennedy McMahon and Mr. McMahon.
Right.
So, by episode 5, 6, he's kind of contradicting what he said in episode 1 or 2. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It's kind of like just, oh, this is my excuse for anything that I did. It's like trying to absolve of guilt. That's what I think of when I hear that argument, not just because Vince said it. That, people have said that kind of thing. It's like, oh, I don't think of it this way. I'm just doing this, or I'm in business mode, or I'm in work mode, and then this is me in personal mode. And it's like, well, I view everybody is kind of always their core in everything they do, kind of thing, right? Some things are highlighted a bit more depending on what it is. Like, you're not going to be silly at work, kind of thing, but you're going to be more fun loving at home, hopefully, that kind of thing, right? But there's still like the core person of what essentially makes your decisions. That's what I believe anyway. I don't have any kind of psychology degree or anything like that, but so I don't know. I hear that and it's just like, yeah, sure, whatever you have to say. And again, it's a documentary, that kind of thing. How biased is kind of anything, you have to look at who's being documented and who's creating the documentary and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of it's weird. That documentaries like this are weird because it's not exactly the truth, right? So
which is interesting because documentaries are, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, it is insanely difficult to get to the truth, and the Socratic method. I remember John introduced me to the idea of the Socratic method, that you take all these different points of view and somehow you aggregate things that are, that are common or whatever like that, and that sort of agree with each other in that sort of way, and somehow you get as close to the truth as possible. And there are a lot of documentaries about Mr. McMahon as well. I mean, not just about Vince as well. Like, for instance, let's say The 9 Lives of Vince McMahon back in 2022. I mean, like every freaking WWE documentary out there. That
there's always a good 20 minutes on Vince. Yeah, and there has to be, right? So
and the McMahon documentary produced by the WWE itself back in 2005. So it is interesting that. That's the case, and you know what, it's as you were saying earlier, how like the bleeding of the character and the person into each other, and like how he kind of contradicted himself. Now here's the thing: as an actor, I would as an actor, I want to think that whatever characters that I play are separate from the person that I am, even if I do inject my personality into the character a little bit, as far as I'm, because that's what method acting is. It's you are the character, and this is how you would react in this moment, even though you're playing the character as well. So that's
Yeah.
one. So that's one thing. And I mean, kayfabe, the original kayfabe, as we always knew it, and which is interesting actually. The documentary actually explained kayfabe. I think this is the first documentary out there that actually explicit, or one of the
Oh,
few.
really?
It's not the first, but it was one of the. If it's not the first, it's one of the very few that actually
Okay.
delineated and actually defined and said the word kayfabe several times.
Oh my.
Yeah, and that was and that surprised me to know to holy hell, basically. Just that they would actually define it, and it's actually and actually make it like
Yeah.
give it its official what's the
Terminology or
terminology exactly.
definition. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, acknowledgement that is an actual real term
Yeah. It's a
that is
thing.
out
It's a
there.
practice. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, like in the theater circles, it's just it's the unwritten contract between the audience
Yeah.
and the performers, right?
Yeah.
It's but
Yeah. Everyone is buying into it, either the performer or the viewer.
yeah,
It's suspension of belief. It's why you enjoy a movie in a movie theater. It's suspension of belief. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So like I know Godzilla is not tearing apart Tokyo right at this moment, but damn it, are those movies a lot of fun? And I've been watching them my whole life. But anyway.
And yeah, I'd like to also think that, I also do accept that even though I've bought toy sonic screwdrivers off of eBay, there is no 1,000-year-old time lord in a blue police phone box from 1963
Yeah.
traveling the universe or anything like that.
Still looking for that magic phone booth, are you?
Well, yeah, still,
Yeah.
I guess so. Fewer of them these days as well. But anyway, but I mean, that's something that was said in the Ric Flair documentary about Richard Fliehr, the man, and Ric Flair, the
Yes.
character, because
Yeah.
that happened to him too. And I mean, I mean, here's the thing is that here's the thing is that I guess one of the things from my own experience is that about 11 years ago I played Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar community production here in Toronto, and I mean, it's like it is definitely a lot easier because because I ain't no deity. I am not perfect. I'm not perfect. I would not. I couldn't. I couldn't get nailed to a cross
Yeah.
and actually I mean, like, heck, if somebody was
Well,
going
I
to
mean, you
crucify
could. I
me,
mean,
but yeah, I
like
could,
anybody
yeah,
could. But yeah.
but
So,
like
what would
like to
Lex Tan do? Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say something that shouldn't be on the air. Anyway,
Yep. Yep.
but
And quick edit. There we go.
yeah,
We're good. All right, we're back.
But yeah, I am nowhere near as as much as a Christian, as a Catholic, we do our best to be the best, follow Christ as best we can. We're never gonna
Mhm.
we're never gonna live up to that because we're just imperfect humans. There are things that like something that I look back on it. Maybe there are things that like kind of bleed that kind of bled from each character that I've played, not just the Jesus character from that play, but other characters that I have been. I remember one play I did back in high school where I was I was a detective that was interviewing a girl who was looking to see her brother on death row, and and I don't know what kind of things that I took away from that character that are
Yeah.
part of my personality, but I'm sure that there are roles that I've done that have become some sort of implicit part of the personality, but it's something I don't know and something that I'm not aware of. And maybe Mr. McMahon, or sorry, Vince McMahon rather, Vince McMahon isn't aware of that himself, of how much his own character or his own personality and his character have bled into each other. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just unaware.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then, and I could be completely way off.
Yeah,
I'm
all
not an
good.
actor at all. I watch TV and movies. I don't make them. But all right, so think about all the many people that have played Batman, for example.
Right.
So as an actor, okay, you're playing Batman, you're playing Jesus, like whoever. Isn't your version like Lex's version of Batman? And
Oh, for sure.
because like all those
100%.
performances aren't exactly the same. Like Robert Pattinson and Michael Keaton are very far apart, of course, as they should be, because there's a reason why you hire different people. You know, Christian Bale, Adam West are extremely far apart, you know,
Oh,
because
yeah.
right? You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
just gonna do it.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
so I just kind of like the blurring of the character. Like I don't know if I mean we get into the whole thing is method acting even real. I don't know, but it's just it's your part of it. So yes, you're playing Batman, but it's there's enough of you, even a little bit in there, going, well, this is how Lex plays Batman. This is how this. So even it's you can't just say Vincent Kennedy and McMahon and Mr. McMahon are just absolutely completely different. And
Mhm.
none, you know, the two shall not meet kind of thing. Like one starts like Vincent Kennedy and McMahon was first. He creates this Vince McMahon character. Well, it's you know whatever him at 211 or something like that. So it's just not
Yes.
enough of you know oh that wasn't me, that was Sybil, you know, or oh that wasn't me, that you know like, that was my
Right.
alternate personality kind of. It's like well no, there's yeah, and at any point if I'm diminishing any kind of condition, I apologize. Again, this is just a complete off the cuff question.
Right.
I
No,
don't
no.
know, right? But I think
Mhm.
it's valid. It's like part of you has to be in there a little bit, and at least in as much where you can't just go, "Oh, that wasn't me. I was Mr. McMahon when I said that." You know,
Mhm.
it's like you can't. It's
Yeah.
not get out of jail free card, right? So
No, of course not. It's not.
yeah.
It should, and it shouldn't be a get out of jail free card.
Mhm.
I mean, like there are a lot. There are a lot of actors out there that, um, well, here's, but at the same time, I mean, like you have, um, a method actor like Heath Ledger was, seeing with the Batman franchise,
Okay. Yep.
a method
Yep.
actor that Heath Ledger was, um, and yes, maybe he did have his own problems outside of what he experienced, when he was playing Joker
Yeah.
back
Like
in the
exploring that kind of what he
yeah.
deemed, you know, he perceived as that psychosis to be the Joker. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's possible as well that his issues were just his own personal issues, his demons. I guess you could use that in this industry, in this
Yep.
business. His personal demons were exacerbated by playing the Joker,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
possible he was actually even cast that, because of the way that, uh, he understood those things, kind of implicit, and that's something that they may have seen, that the
Yeah.
casting directors may have seen
Yeah,
about.
seeing the direction that he had planned to take it in, and then of course they agreed and cast him. So yeah,
And if you look, and then when you bring it back into the wrestling industry in particular, and you said you mentioned this as well. Stone Cold said it, The Rock said it. That's their own personalities up to 11,
right.
and
Yeah.
sometimes that's what you need. I mean, look at The Rock. First of like he was already he was already getting he was getting natural heat, because as Rocky Maivia, people were booing him out of the building.
Oh,
People could
that
have just
costume was like a dollar store Halloween costume. My goodness, it was like party favors were just stuck to him. Like, yeah, go on out there. We
and
believe. You know, it's like, oh, dude,
clap
brutal,
clap.
brutal.
But that's the thing, is that like the people in the crowd could have just sat on their hands and just like, we don't care about this guy.
No,
I
you
mean,
still got a response though, so there
yeah,
was something there. Yeah.
exactly. But then when you turn up the volume on The Rock to 11, and Dwayne putting his personality and saying that, and actually addressing the crowd and the way they think and the way they feel about
Yeah.
having seen Rocky Maivia, in there, that's when The Rock that's when The Rock was born, and that's when he started calling himself the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, and
Yeah.
he eventually called himself the most electrifying man in entertainment, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy with Dwayne. I mean, there, I challenge anybody out there to find any celebrity out there that could, that could, go into a room and the entire room would just pop, like no matter what. No matter what, the way they pop for the Rock and Dwayne. I challenge anybody to find a superstar like that in any entertainment industry. But at the same time, it's like when you have all of those things happening, plus you have something great like that with Dwayne, but you also have the tragic incidents, like something that like with a name that we always joke around is the name that can never be said anymore with in the WWE circles. But hey, we're not contracted by WWE. We're a wrestling show. We can say this. Chris Benoit. That's it's a little bit awkward even for me to say this on the air, but Chris Benoit. I mean, his personality himself, what like the Chris Benoit man, the man Chris Benoit was. Like that was just him. That was just him in the ring. And for better for worse, it wasn't even Chris Benoit's personality 2 and 11. It was just Chris Benoit. And they actually do go through that documentary, and that's something that I think that I think maybe you and I could address in this second segment over here, because this whole documentary, all these things about Vince McMahon and the Mr. McMahon character, could be could be expanded a little bit more with the other guys in attendance. But I think this would be a good idea to do a long form discussion about how they handle the Chris Benoit situation, and as well that I guess personal experiences as well with our own with our own health issues as well, and other experiences. So we're gonna take a break right here. When we come back, we'll get into that. You're listening to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. We'll be back after these promotional considerations.
Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away, we'll be giving in. Tell me I'm wrong, but if we just walk away.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Lex Tan at Lex Tan Media. Follow the show at Ringside_Heat on all over social media, right down in the banner at the bottom. And we're also on Patreon, as you can see.
Patreon.
There you go. And become a local fan of ours on Patreon. I've got some write-ups that we got over there. We've also got some. I also have posted a TikTok a couple of days ago asking about. I was asking about what you think about the crowd calling ref "you suck" as if you were actually at a competitive sport game, as opposed to a sports entertainment thing.
It's still real to them, damn it. Yeah.
That beside me over here is Colin Dodge at Risen72, the responsible one, the AEW expert, and our resident charity Twitch streamer for Sick Kids and Extra Life. And also before we get into the next discussion, just remember that we do have an action figure giveaway. If you look to your left of your screen over here, for those of you watching on YouTube, we are giving away an Ultimate Elite Fiend figure, and it is the Fiend from his last run in the wrestling industry, and it is a beautiful figure. It is a great thing to add to your collection if you are an action figure collector, or if you just want to gift it to somebody that really loves action figures. And don't gift it to Chico because he's got too many.
And I'll say too, the first thing I asked about it when we decided which figure and all that kind of thing, is it detailed enough where it actually says on his gloves hurt and heal? And yes, it is that detailed. So it's great because that's a big, almost subtle part of that character, the hurt and heal. And there's Miss Bray, but it was such But anyway, the figure is amazing. And get in on the contest. It's free, and we're shipping it to you. Like that's free too. Like we're gonna send it to you.
Exactly.
Do the
Exact-
thing. Get the figure.
Exactly. Retweet or repost, whatever terminology you want to use these days.
Retweet. It's still
Yeah.
Twitter.
Retweet, follow us, and tag a friend as well, so that and the more friends you tag, the more entries you get into the figure contest over here. So hey, great. And also the coming out of the break, we had the next single from John Dawson's Outlier album, which is available wherever you stream your music. Download it off of iTunes or Apple Music, and as well we've got you can also buy the vinyl on Spotify, sorry, on Shopify, John Dawson Music
Shopify, yeah.
at .myshopify.com. And we are and of course Colin, he switches for sick kids and everything, and for Extra Life. So make sure you are tuning into his streams and you're donating to Sick Kids and Extra Life. It's a great organization to donate to, because it saves lives.
All details on that, it's at Risen72 on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all that kind of stuff. Ask me any questions for that. But I've gotten a hold of NHL 25, so I've been playing that. I started playing that yesterday.
Very nice.
Very much addicted. I'm a bit of an objective. I'm not going to say that word, but objective enthusiast. And
very nice.
It's very well done. The new setup, lots of changes from 24. But anyway, EA is not giving us any money for that. So yes, Extra Life. I support Sick Kids Toronto. They supported me in the best way, for those who don't know. And so I stream a lot. I'll be streaming more.
And that actually is one of the things that kind of leads into the next part of the discussion about the McMahon documentary. In episode 6. Episode 6, they talked about WrestleMania 23 up to the present day of the Vince McMahon story, and of course, Vince McMahon. Back in 2007, after WrestleMania 23 in June, he portrayed his own death on an episode of WWE Raw, where the McMahon character, let's make that clear, the McMahon character was blown up in a limousine explosion. But a week later, literally a week later, the storyline had to be scrapped because of the Chris Benoit double murder suicide. And I remember watching that WWE Raw and seeing how surreal it was. Nobody was in the arena. It was just Vince McMahon. He dropped the character. Obviously, he even explained my character, Mr. McMahon, died in a limousine explosion. But that's just story. I'm Vince, and I'm talking, and this is what happened. Unbeknownst to anybody, because they were live at the time, unbeknownst to anybody that details were coming out about the situation, and it turned out that Benoit was responsible for the murder of his wife Nancy, his son Daniel, and his own suicide, and it was a very, very tough few years for the wrestling industry. And because we were talking about this before, about in the previous break, that Chris Benoit, unfortunately, Chris Benoit, his character wasn't character turned up to 11, because he was, I guess, his shtick and his thing was his wrestling skills. It wasn't just a
pure professional.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like Bryan Danielson, who is like who learned how to inject character and to create a character, but have amazing wrestling skills, and had both of those. Had both of those. But as you said, he was a wrestling. He was a wrestling machine. Benoit was, and it also brought in this documentary also brought in former wrestler Christopher Nowinski, who did actually examine Benoit's brain and did conclude that he did suffer from CTE, and which is quite interesting because I think you mentioned something about before when we were doing show prep. You mentioned something about what Stone Cold said about that.
Yeah, so like I say, I watched a review of the documentary, and so Cultaholic had brought this up, saying that in Stone Cold's segment, or in one of them, he said he didn't believe in CTE, that he's had a concussion or two, but has never had, so I'm paraphrasing a review, right? So if anything is a little bit off, but the point being is that he didn't believe in CTE, and to me, that was kind of the most shocking thing out of everything that was reviewed. With allegations flying around, all that kind of stuff, the worst things you could say about Vince, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, and or I could believe that. But not just because it was Austin, but a wrestler not kind of believing in that. And this could be a wrong comparison, but I immediately thought of with Roman going through leukemia, and where I thought, because I'm a 2-time survivor of leukemia, way back when it was all happened before I was 10, so I actually don't remember really any of it. But so my form of leukemia, I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and that required chemotherapy, but also radiation. I've actually lost my hair twice. I used to be blonde and curly, believe it or
Oh
not.
wow!
Oh yeah, thank God
Wow.
that didn't stick. Ooh, boy. But anyway, that was very brief. Yeah. But so anyways, so then you have Roman who's doing it. It's not like I go, oh, he was fortunate enough to his chemotherapy didn't involve radiation, and it was actual like orals, like medication. And it was, I'm trying to remember the name. I looked it up before because I wanted, I was just curious. It's myeloid leukemia. I that's not the full name. Maybe chroma myeloid. But anyway, different than mine. But I wasn't mad going, oh, he didn't have a real leukemia, or like he did leukemia wrong, or anything like that. Like, I'm not that insane. I'm going, I'm glad he didn't have to go through what I went through, even though I don't remember it. And thankfully I was a little kid. So the resiliency of a child is amazing. Leukemia is especially a lot harder for adults than anybody who's older, as any kind of cancer would be. But it's not going, oh, I don't believe he had leukemia because he didn't have he didn't have the recovery that I had. You could say the treatment that I had. It's not like he did it wrong. I celebrated that he didn't have the version that I had, and that he fought it off rather quickly, I would say. But this also wasn't the first time, at least, while he was a prominent figure in WWE, that he went through it and all that kind of stuff. But point being, just because my experience wasn't the same, so just because Stone Cold's concussion experience wasn't the same as Benoit's or anybody else, doesn't mean it didn't exist or that I don't believe in it. Like, I don't know. That was just madness to me that he doesn't believe in CTE. And yeah, so that was kind of the most jarring thing out of it. And again, not just because of Stone Cold, but any wrestler going, oh yeah. I mean, for how many times they get their bell rung, and understandably, it's a tough thing to do. It's one of the toughest things to do. But just to go, oh, I don't believe in CTE, that threw me of anything that was said. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, you got through it, you survived it and everything. And that's something to celebrate. And that's something definitely to celebrate, because not a lot, there are others that are not as lucky as you, not as lucky as Roman to have survived it.
A lot of families that my mom met were not as lucky, kids that were in the same ward that I was in, and then all of a sudden weren't. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I know this, and I know this kind of like I will say that this pales in comparison. I know that pales in comparison to what you went through and what Stone Cold and like with what Benoit went through. But I mean, here's the thing: is that like I remember in my younger and stupider days, the stupider is arguable, but was that back in the day, I asked Chico to practice giving me chair shots. And like so that
Chico, no.
and so like in a way that like in a way that like actually didn't like he didn't swing back or anything, but then like when just as I was about to get as opposed to as just as I was supposed to connect, I would like raise a hand, whatever like that, and then kick my legs up, bump on my back, head up, and everything, right? And we did a pretty good, actually we did a pretty good job with it a couple of a few times, and then there was this one day that I didn't keep my head up enough.
Oh.
And yeah, and my
always
head
the one
connected.
time.
Yeah, it was the one time, exactly. I banged my head on the floor. I mean, I immediately went. I immediately sprung back up to my feet, almost like an almost a kip up, almost. And
there you go.
but then but then yeah, I saw the stars. My head was ringing. I felt that I felt weird in the back of my head. And it was just and thank God I didn't like collapse or anything, and thank God going home that night like I didn't pass out or didn't need to do those things like Sidney Crosby and Eric Lindros had to do for the NHL and stay in a stay in a darkened room, no sound, no anything, in order to recover. But I'm sure it rung my bell.
Yeah,
I'm sure it rung my bell, and that was one time. And then in the last couple of in the two wrestling training things I had with
he
with
is our
Clash
seasoned
Kincaid.
amongst amongst the ring crew. Yes.
Yeah. With Clash Kincaid and Andrew Love, and I love the fact that they did their best to to accommodate me and everything. And I'm pretty sure that if I can go back there and train again once once the mosquitoes won't be biting me anymore. But I mean, it is tough. Like when you're doing bumps, and you can see it like AEW TV, WWE TV, TNA Impact. You can see that that not all the wrestlers are not always successful, and these are trained professionals. They're not always successful at keeping their head off the mat when they're doing a bump.
Well, I mean, you're a full-time wrestler. The math is against you. Odds are there's going to be a day, there's going to be a move that you're just off by a centimeter. Like, it is all it takes with some of the things. And it's not that people on the majority are grossly unsafe or anything like that. It's just the probability. The math is just against you if this is your full-time job. So, well, what happened to you with Chico? Let's blame Chico because he's not here. But imagine, you're full-time. That's your everyday. And, it's a chair shot era or something like that. Like every now and again, it might not go crazy like Rock and Mankind, but there's going to be one where it's just, you caught the lip a little bit, you caught the edge and not the flat part or something like that. I mean, it's just, you do it every day, 5 times a week and 2 shows on Sunday or whatever. And it's just, the math is just against you at some point. But to think that it doesn't have, there isn't something to do with CT. Now, this is not excusing anything that Benoit did, of course, or anything like that. It's just, it's a real thing. And again, that was just the most shocking part. Sorry to jump in on that, but
No, it's cool. It's fine that you jumped in on that because it's I mean, just because you suffer differently doesn't mean everybody hasn't suffered in some sort of way, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if he didn't have it the way I did, then it's not a real thing. Like that's insanity. There's so many different varying degrees. There's unfortunately way too many kinds of cancer, let alone way too many kinds of leukemia and all that kind of stuff. So there's way too many kinds of severity of concussions and all that kind of thing. And everybody is affected a little bit differently, but I don't know. Yeah, that was just jarring to me. I'm like, really? I mean, really? It's like I work in an office and I don't believe in desks. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. I mean, I guess we do have a few minutes. I guess it's just gonna be a 2-parter show over here for those of you listening on the radio and everything. But because this discussion took us a little bit longer than I thought it would. But to tie everything in a bow, I guess in a sense that yes, I'm sure that the wellness policy that the WWE put forth is is one of those things that's just like, it had to come after all of this controversy. It's not
Yeah.
just that, not just with the Benoit situation, but also the like the painkiller situation, the steroid situation as well too. Like all of that had to come, especially and even at a time where there was more focus on actual wellness of the athletes and the performers, not just in the WWE and sports entertainment, but also all around the sporting world as well, the athletic world. I mean, like I mean, like, it's I mean, I guess in a sense, to give the devil his due, McMahon started like put that forward. The rest of the WWE put that forward, and it's still and it's obviously developed into something better and into a lot better thing these days. But man, it was rough. That was a rough time for everybody in the wrestling industry as well as all the fandom as well.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, it's not the only place to go through that kind of evolution, you could say, get to upper echelons, you might say.
Yep.
I mean, UFC in the beginning was an absolute insane blood sport. Nothing scripted about that. That was just like nuts. That was like the movie Bloodsport.
Right.
Way back in the day. Yeah, like it was insane before, I can never remember how to pronounce the other the brothers' names, but Dana White and Fertitta,
something like that. Yeah.
I apologize, but yes. Anyway, before they came in and turned it into an actual thing where there's regulation and the safest way to do that sport, right? But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the last thing we'll say about the McMahon series for now, I mean, like the reviews are out right now. Vince himself called it deceptive and claiming it was intentionally misleading viewers by creating confusion around key events. Wall Street Journal, one person, described McMahon as a dirtbag and encourages viewers to evaluate the portrayal of the scandals, and they think that it's more a relatively honest portrayal of Vince McMahon. Dave Meltzer generally praised it upon release and feeling that it contained no major inaccuracies or embellishments aside from the recounting of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. But then again, Hulk Hogan, he embellishes.
5 stars and not 7 from Dave.
And yeah, so and one thing that was actually surprising, and this is before we say our goodbyes and everything, but wasn't one thing that surprises me that like I didn't know this, and I know and I should have known this, but that was legally shown that the McMahons did not supply steroids to the talent. It was nor did they encourage it, and that was something that was actually set and that was determined by the legal process. So
that's right. Yeah, the actual the final decision on it. Yeah.
So that was
you didn't have a little WWF logo on the vial that he was handing out to people. Yeah, no.
May have been Ico Pro, but anyway.
Well, now they're never going to be a sponsor.
If they're a McMahon brand, they're a McMahon brand and no longer around. So yeah.
Oh, okay. They've gone the way of the XFL, have they? All right.
Please, Dwayne, do not buy Ico Pro. Anyway. Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM, your favorite podcatcher, as well as on YouTube. That's it for us over here. Before we go, again, Fiend giveaway on X. Make sure you follow Jose Taboada's tweets at Taboada93. He's got all of the information about that. Also, buy John Dawson's album and stream his album wherever you get your music. And also a shout out to Unified Pro Wrestling and the lovely mosquito bites that you see on the side of this side of my head because it was an outdoor show that I called.
You should be in a neck brace right now the way you're going on about those mosquitoes. Yeah.
Oh jeez.
Go heal with it, man.
Oh boy.
Neck brace braces?
Yeah. Make sure you're tuning in on October the 5th for our Bad Blood stream. The week after that, on October the 12th, for the AEW Wrestle Dream stream with starring Colin and Jose. And one last thing, Colin, before we sign off.
Yeah. It's, well, I mean, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, I'm definitely an Extra Life streamer. You can support me, well, support Sick Kids Toronto. Any donations made go directly to Sick Kids Toronto. Nobody's keeping a piece of it. And I have a little incentive going on right now. If we hit $400 by November 2nd, game day, I will spend that 24-hour stream marathon that weekend playing Elden Ring, which
Ooh.
could very well be disastrous, putting my 30-year gaming career on the line as I load up Elden Ring for the very first time. I've never played it before. Good news is we're already over halfway.
Nice.
So less than 200 will get us there. So Risen72 on YouTube and Twitch, and of course Twitter and Instagram. Reach out there, follow that to see my streaming schedule. Always on a Sunday, and then I try to put together other days. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also follow Ringside Heat at Ringside_Heat on all of our social media, and on Patreon, patreon.com/Ringside Heat, and become a local fan. Support us. Keep the lights on over here for us. That was Colin Dodge at Risen72. I'm Lex Tan at Lex Tan Media, and you've been listening to Ringside Heat on Sauga 960 AM. We remember the things that you probably forgot.